Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're throwing open a really incredible window into the past. We're looking at the 1917 letters of a World War I Marine recruit named Lyle. Through his super personal correspondence, we're going to see firsthand exactly what it takes to completely strip away a civilian identity and forge a hardened soldier, right on the eve of a brutal deployment.
So let's just dive right into this primary source. Can you imagine writing home to your parents and actually admitting, "Mother, I'm not sure you'd recognize your son anymore"? I mean, that's a pretty striking thing to say, right? In just a few short weeks of totally grueling training, Lyle realizes that the boy his parents raised is practically gone. He's being completely replaced by someone entirely new, caught right in this bizarre limbo between his comfortable civilian past and a terrifyingly uncertain military future. Let's set the scene a bit. It's May of 1917 down at the San Diego Marine Barracks. Lyle is 3 weeks in, which means he's got 5 deeply terrifying weeks left to go. He's officially entering the dreaded refinement phase of boot camp. Looking down the road at weeks 4 and 8, he's facing marksmanship training, graduation, and the looming reality of a highly likely combat deployment straight to the trenches of France. He's literally right in the crucible of this massive transformation. Section 1, the physical transformation, from floorwalker to Marine. So we're kicking things off with the absolutely brutal physical hardening that happens during week 3. This transition from a gentle civilian life to a punishing military existence is just a massive shock to the system. And honestly, Lyle's letters capture that intense reality perfectly. Think about who he was back home. Lyle was a floor walker at Marston's department store. That's a job built entirely around politeness, customer service, valuing kindness, having a gentle demeanor. But now, that slight civilian guy is long gone. Standing in his place is a leaner man. His hands are calloused, and he's now explicitly tasked with learning how to kill without even a fraction of a second of hesitation. It is just an unbelievable pivot in his everyday reality. During week 3, the drill instructors completely stop treating these guys like new recruits. Suddenly, they're demanding absolute precision and speed. They're throwing intense wrestling and boxing drills at them, plus these incredibly nerve-wracking 2-hour guard duty watches. But check out this really fascinating detail. During those wrestling drills, Lyle actually uses his slight civilian agility to completely win a match against a guy twice his size. The instructor just chalked it up to dumb luck. But Lyle, he proudly claimed that hard-earned victory. But, of course, the military always finds a way to humble you, right? Those 2-hour guard duty watches were this weird mix of totally boring and absolutely terrifying, mostly because the instructors were constantly sneaking up on people. And Lyle actually admits he got caught daydreaming. I mean, we've all zoned out before, but here, the cost of daydreaming is steep and very public. They made him do push-ups right there while the entire company marched past him. It's humiliating, sure, but it taught him a pretty vital lesson about focus and discipline. And what's interesting is how that newfound discipline actually spilled over into his finances. After 3 brutal weeks of having absolutely nothing to his name at camp, he gets his first military pay. It's a whopping $30. Now, that sounds meager to us, but to him, it felt like an absolute fortune. While a bunch of the other guys rushed straight to the PX to blow their cash, Lyle's civilian responsibility really kicked in. He saved most of it for his parents and just kept enough for stamps and writing papers so he could maintain that crucial connection to home. It really hits him when he finally looks in the mirror. Lyle realizes his physical metamorphosis is so complete that it's actually jarring. He writes, "I'm still slight, but I'm harder somehow, leaner." He notices the softness in his face is completely gone and his hands are now calloused and rough. He's not exactly that heavily muscled soldier you'd see plastered on a recruitment poster, but he is fundamentally hardened. He's become a totally different man. Which brings us to Section 2, the marksman's burden, the psychology of war. As we shift into week 4, that physical hardening we just talked about gives way to an unexpected and honestly super heavy mental conditioning. And this carries an entirely different, arguably much heavier sort of weight. This is the week they finally get to fire their rifles. And Lyle so eloquently describes the absolute perfect stillness you need right before squeezing the trigger. It's this highly calculated rhythmic process. Step 1, your breathing slows. Step 2, your heartbeat studies. Step 3, your entire world narrows down to nothing but the target. And finally, Step 4, the recoil and strike. Well, to his total surprise, Lyle actually reveals to his sweetheart Emily that he's got a natural talent for this. His drill instructor even pays him a compliment, which is almost unheard of. But here's an incredibly fascinating twist of fate. It turns out his meticulous civilian day job perfectly translated into deadly military accuracy. Just think about it for a second. All those years checking orders, balancing accounts, and spotting tiny little discrepancies at Marston's department store? That gave him the exact focused attention and steady hands you need to be a phenomenal Marine marksman. Who would have ever thought that being a department store floor walker was literally the perfect training for hitting targets on a rifle range? However, this undeniable new talent brings up a really heavy moral dilemma for him. In his letters, he confesses this deep, gnawing fear to Emily. He asks her, "Is it wrong to be scared of losing your own kindness?" He's terrified she might think less of him because he's not eager to go fight. Out on the range, he's shooting at targets shaped exactly like men, and his instructors are constantly referring to the enemy simply as problems to be solved with bullets and bayonets. I mean, can you imagine the psychological weight of actually feeling your own inherent peacefulness just slipping away like that? To deal with this, he actively suppresses his terror using strict military discipline. He openly admits to Emily that he's scared. Underneath all this new muscle and grit, he's still just a young guy from San Diego who'd much rather be taking a peaceful walk by the harbor. But he essentially forces himself to embody the unquestioning resolve of a Marine. He knows that if he's going to survive the battlefields ahead, he has to completely lock away his doubts. As he puts it, "Right now, I have to be a Marine, and Marines don't doubt, don't hesitate, don't question their training or their mission." Which leads us to Section 3, Brotherhood and Future Dreams, Emotional Lifelines. You see, surviving boot camp isn't just about physical strength or even about suppressing your fear. It's really about the vital emotional lifelines of camaraderie and love. And these letters just beautifully illustrate how raw human connection becomes the absolute ultimate survival tool out there. Lyle's squad was this amazing, diverse, melting pot of guys who literally carried each other through the brutality of training. Just look at this breakdown. You've got Private Keller, this honest, strong, but deeply homesick farm boy from Nebraska. Then there's Private Martinez, an LA restaurant worker who dreams of opening his own place someday. And Private Sullivan, a dock worker from San Francisco who's built like an absolute bear but has the gentlest personality. When Sullivan saw Lyle struggling with bayonet drills, he actually taught him a trick to use his smaller size to his advantage. And when Martinez found out his grandmother passed away and he couldn't go home for the funeral, they all just sat around with him and shared stories. This right here, this is the true brotherhood you just don't see on the glossy recruitment posters. And amidst all that harshness, it's his letters from his sweetheart Emily that really serve as his emotional anchor to home. She writes to tell him she purposely walks past his parents' house on 30th Street just to feel a little bit closer to him. In return, he shares his deepest hopes with her. He dreams of buying a quiet house in North Park with a little garden. He hopes for a little girl with Emily's brown hair, or maybe a brave boy. It's these very vivid, specific dreams that keep him moving forward. The memory of her is basically his fundamental motivation to survive the exhausting daily grind. In an environment that's literally designed from the ground up to strip away his individuality and harden him for war, he confesses this to her with just profound vulnerability. He writes, "You're keeping me alive, Emily, not physically but spiritually. You're the reason I get up every morning." Her love is the one thing keeping his soul completely intact. But, before any of those beautiful dreams of a house in North Park and a family can become reality, he maps out his extremely daunting path to survival. He's taking it one terrifying step at a time. Step 1, he has to actually survive the next 4 weeks of training. Step 2, survive whatever permanent assignment they hand him. And Step 3, the most towering obstacle of all, he has to survive the Great War itself. Toward the end of his letter, he actually encloses a group photograph for Emily. He points out that he's standing way over on the far left, standing shoulder to shoulder with his new brothers in arms. He specifically notes to her how dramatically different he looks compared to just 4 weeks ago. He says he barely even recognizes his own face anymore, but he is fully, forever changed by these first 4 weeks, permanently cemented into his unit. He is fiercely clinging to the hope of the future. It's his ultimate reason why he has to endure whatever terrifying uncertainty awaits him over in France. He tells her, "It helps to have dreams, Emily. It helps to imagine a future worth fighting for." The military training is teaching him exactly how to fight, but it's his dreams of a future with Emily that give him the actual reason to fight. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you all with a final pretty provocative thought. Lyle's letters are over a century old now, but these so brilliantly capture this timeless reality, the massive psychological toll of military training. Whenever we look at the men and women who serve, I think we have to ask ourselves, what is the true human cost of turning a young, hopeful civilian into an instrument of war? Thank you so much for joining me today to explore this amazing piece of history. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you on the next one.